Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we're having a look at the second dev server Datamine by Father Gentlespie, and as usual, thank you to Father Gentlespie for creating this, and if you want to check out his other work, I'll leave a few links in the description so you can have a look at this Datamine and also have a look at some other stuff he's done. Also, I would just like to say, I know a lot of people have been reaching out to me on Discord with either questions or DMs about specific things. I've just not really responded to any of them over the last 2 days because obviously I've been very busy with like video making and also other stuff. So just understand I will get to them. Right now there is about 460 messages in the DMs on my Discord over the last few days. So if you're waiting for a response, just understand it will be there soon. So let's get into it. Now, thank you to Gentlespie for putting it into specific sections. The first one is tank changes, and what we have here is a change to the newly added Swedish STRF 9056 with the proximity ATGM is probably the best way I can put it, and they've changed the weapons traverse limits on specific angles. They've reduced the stabilizer effectiveness from 75 kilometers an hour to 15, and they've added new ammo DMs. I'm wondering if it's going to get the upgraded APF SDS or if this is just for the ATGM. We'll have to see. Now remember, as always, when it comes to these, this may change. There's already been another update on the dev server, which I'll cover tomorrow. But for now, we're just having a look at this one. The Type 93 received Gen 3 thermals for the gunner and the commander. So this is, of course, the Speedy Boy, or the Japanese Humvee, if you want to call it that, even though it isn't a Humvee. But yeah, it's the new SAM launcher from the Japanese. So you'll be able to see people at day, at night, whenever you feel like. The STRV 103C grill change from structural steel to modern RHA. The thickness has also been doubled from 15 to 30. Well, that's kind of nice. I've been trying to play the STRV 103C, and it is as hard as pulling teeth, just like the first STRV 103 was in the tree, mainly because it really struggles when it's not, doesn't have its mobility upgrades, and that seems to be when the hull aiming is the worst. But, we can get through it, and this will definitely help. The A33 Excelsior, so the Fat Cromwell, received gun optic damage model. Nice, so shells shouldn't just go straight through it all the time. And the Charlie 2 Dorchester gunner thermal switch from 1st gen to 2nd gen, added new hull composite armor somewhere, 90mm thickness, and that's kind of nice, It just means that there's a little bit more to the Charlie 2. Obviously with the 22F coming in, there's going to be quite a beastly tank at top tier for Britain, which could also have access to a bunch of new mechanics if they decide to have it added in over the next few updates. The 9P157, so this is the new this is the new missile launcher from the Soviets, the one which is coming after the Sturm S, the Chrysanthema, and the one which can shoot 2 missiles at 2 separate targets at once. So it has timber armor, so it's got wood on it now. It also receives hull break, which it should do because it's made out of paper, and the 9P157, the limits for the launcher have changed, so the yaw is from negative 90 to 10 and negative 85 to 85. Oh, okay. So it's gone from negative 90 to 10 to negative 85 plus 85. So that's okay. And the pitch minus 10 to 20, minus 5 to 15. So the pitch has decreased, but the yaw has increased. So overall, I would actually say that's a positive. The mass has also changed. It's gone down to 18 tons, so it should be a little bit quicker now. Also, the RPM changes and the gear ratios. It could no longer reverse at 70 kilometers per hour. God damn, can't run away from situations quickly. It's now amphibious, which is good. It should be, and they've changed the sight field of views with a modern rangefinder system. I did actually feel that on the second dev server. Hopefully, they just get the radar stuff fixed on it because I don't think it's fully implemented yet, and it also received a new camo, which unfortunately I wasn't able to see. The Type 93 got new engine sounds, so as you're motoring around at 100 kilometers an hour, you can be heard doing it. The BMP-1 and BMP-2 received some new turret armor from 30 to 6 millimeters. Oh dear. Oh, very dear. So you're going to be able to machine gun that. Oh no. The chrysanthema, the shot frequency changed from 0.12 shots per second to 1 shot per second. Reload time increased from 13 to 15. Proper model given instead of an attacker. So obviously that is the missile that the chrysanthema is using. And I don't think that'll really make too much of a difference, 1 shot per second instead of 0.12 shots per second. It's not a huge deal for this style of machine. The 105mm Type 83, the accuracy has been increased. It's always nice to see a gun accuracy buff. The 105mm ZP-94, the accuracy was also increased, and the shot frequency increased from 7 to 8. Ooh, a nice little buff. The 76mm Autobreda de Mar penetration constant decreased for the SAP shell, and also the HEVT has been increased to 0.745. So it should have a little bit more of an explosion, but the AP shell should not be able to pen as much. There are also some ship changes. Maximum shell distance of various naval weapons has been increased. We'll have to see how that affects stuff. My guess is just it'll be for like the 203s and stuff, just to make it so they can go further. This may put a larger gap between smaller ships and bigger ships. Ship wood armor changed, armor quality reduced to 0.1, generic armor quality increased from 0.04 to 0.5. So we'll have to see. This will mainly affect like rank 1 and rank 2, so it may make things more bulkier. It also may make them easier to destroy. It's kind of hard to tell depending on what type of armor is on machines, but just from this, since there's no extra protection on a lot of those vehicles, I would say this is going to make them weaker. The ship structural steel changed. Explosion armor quality has changed from 0.78 to 1, so they won't explode as much, or they might be a little bit better against HE, but it's always hard to tell. So there were also some air changes. The B6N1 FM was changed. Obviously this isn't in the game yet, and there's going to be 3 versions of that plane coming in. They've also refined all of the F-104 flight models. S only got a RIP speed increase from Mach 2.2 to 2.3. They have given the J6A cockpit canopy control. I always like the little changes. The little quality of life changes are really much more important to me than any new vehicle. And it looks like the Mirage 3C also got its booster as 2700 kgf thrust at 0 km an hour. I didn't test it on the dev server because I heard it was a little bit buggy, so I just kind of left it until live server, which I'm pretty sure will come this week. The Reggiani 200500 FM has changed. That's that's always a worry. If you've ever played the Reggiani 2005, or if you've ever played against it, you will know that thing's a monster, so we'll have to see if it's got worse or better with the updates. The Scimitar also got a flight model change. Its thrust at sub 1,000 km an hour and 0 meter altitude increased, and its rib speed increased from Mach 1.08 to 1.14. I feel like the Scimitar already had crazy acceleration. This might be another Swift situation, which will be very nice for the British. The Su-7 BFM was changed. Thrust altitude speed of various places changed. All of them increased, most notably high altitude performance. So this thing is going to be incredibly fast, just going around the place. It was already fast on the first dev server, and on the second one, it's got even faster. There are also new DMs for a lot of different vehicles, so the F-104A and G for China, obviously they weren't there before. There's a new DM for the Hurricane Mark 1 late, interesting, and then also for the Ki 27 Otsu, the Ki 44, the Ki 61, and also the Ki 44-1, Ki 61-1A, RE2000, RE3001, and Spitfire Mark 2A. Looks like they're just refining some of the DMs, which is nice to see. Always looking at older content and trying to revitalize it, kind of like when we had the Spitfire remodels and the Hurricane remodels, and also there was a bunch of other remodels that have been done. The JU-88 one, I think, was the most comprehensive one, and also the Heinkel one, the HU-111 one back in the day. The Su-7B's radar was removed. Well, that's good, because it shouldn't have one. The Su-7, the SPO2 radar warning system was added to it, though. Everything I've read, it shouldn't have RWR, but maybe I was looking at the wrong model. They've also added new payload types, so the Mirage 3C rocket booster and Mirage 3C fuel tanks. That's obviously just adding in the interceptor payloads for the Mirage. The Firestreak and the SRAM prop nav guidance changed. This helps with intercept course, so they'll be stronger now. Making SRAM stronger just seems like a crazy idea, but why not? All signed wide Axel control diff has been decreased, so they won't be as powerful. And then Heli Changes. The Pars 80 Gem Seeker nerfed, effectiveness almost halved. I mean, when I tested it in the second dev, I didn't see it be that effective. I didn't see it be that affected, meaning that with my testing, it was pretty much exactly the same as the first dev server. So we'll have to see what these changes were when it comes to live. I am still very much worried about the system because of what it can create. There's also some sensor weapon additions, so they've added a new bullet type, HETF. So high explosive time fuse, which, we kind of already have in the game. Squad target indicator random range. So the range for the indicator is 500. So only 500 meters. That seems kind of bad. They did also add the squad targeter in the game. So, I tested it out. It seemed to work pretty well. So, yeah, that'll be nice to have to be able to point stuff on the map. The chrysanthemum radar changed. There's azimuth limits for locking, tracking, and line of sight locking. They changed from -7 to 7 to -90 to 90. I think this is a good change because it means you keep lock even if you can't put the missile on. So therefore, you don't lose a target if it moves between that range of -7 and 7. They've also added a new tank MG, the 7.62mm KSP-39 STRV user machine gun. So that's of course a Swedish gun. The naval cannon, the 280mm 52 SKC-28 naval user cannon. Oh, here we go. Big old boys. The new type of missile, you got a SNEB Type 23 MD460, and some new cannons added. So the Cannon 61A1, the M61 has also received its own sound. The 61A1 is just the upgraded M61 that we find on some of the F104s that were added to the game. And here are some of the global changes and additions. So the sun infrared brightness sources masked changed from 3 to 4. So this might actually make anti-air missiles more sensitive to the sun. That would be kind of interesting. They were already kind of sensitive, so we'll have to see how this affects top-tier gameplay. There's also a new AI sound added, so when when friendlies go past you, and there's the engine F104 AI added player F104 sound. My guess is that it's talking about the Star Wars sound. It sounds like you're flying a TIE fighter when it comes to flying the F104. That's probably what that's talking about, because that is completely different to pretty much everything else in the game. The next one is they've added a new type of armor, Alum Alloy 36. I wouldn't be surprised if that's something to do with helicopters. They've changed server timeouts for the client from 250,000 to 35,000. So that is reducing the time that you will be able to try and get back into the server once you are timed out, which is relatively short, if I'm honest with you. Change Swordfish Mark 1 stat card turn time number from 50 to 13 seconds. And as you can see, one thing that is forgotten a lot about people when people bring up stat cards, but stat cards are a horrible way of trying to show the usefulness of a vehicle, unless it's talking about very specific values. So, like rate of climb is a notorious one, which is kind of bad to look at, and maximum speed and stuff, because it doesn't take into a lot of factors that you generally have to take into. And as you can see, this one, as Gentlespie says, the stat cards are inputted manually and they never affect stats themselves. Yeah, so it's always better to look at the raw stats of the vehicles instead of what the stat cards say. They corrected the Montecuccoli's displacement on the stat card. It's now 8,900 tons instead of 89,000 tons. God damn, big boy. They changed the G5's classification on the stat card from a torpedo boat to a gunboat. I mean, unless that's talking about the premium one, the other ones are torpedo boats, so that must be talking about the premium one they just added for Victory Day. They've corrected the Romani-class cruiser displacement, once again, taking away a 0, so they're not literal mammoths. They've corrected the Soldati turbine and Dardo destroyer countries from USA to Italy. Why does that even happen? Oh god. They've added the. Actually, no. If those were the ones from before, if those were the ones which were, if those were the ones which were added, previously, like when they were testing out stuff like cruisers and destroyers, that may be because of how maybe Italy wasn't seen as a country in the game, so they just quickly put them as the US ones for the time being. I don't know, but it just seems really funny to me. The F4EJ now requires the F104J to be researched. Oh, for the Japanese. Yeah, you are correct. They're all in the same line. So if you want the F4EJ, I would research it now, unless you also want to play the F104J. They've added displacement stats for the River class. Nice, so it's not floating anymore. The Reggiani 2005, they've changed its BR from 6.0 to 5.0. Wait. Oh, that is a bold move. That FM change must be absolutely devastating for that vehicle, because before it was a UFO. It completely was ridiculous how it was flying. If they're already making a preemptive BR change without having like player stats or anything involved, that must mean that it's been hit hard with the proverbial Nerf hammer. Jesus, I don't think I've ever seen anything like that, apart from the Sturm S, and even the Sturm S, that was based around, player feedback. This one, there can't be any player feedback because it's literally just on the dev server. The G91R4 is now a rank 5, but it's still fine because it can research everything effectively. It's a G cost to previous status. It's also got a weird camouflage on it with El Tigor, and the Mirage AIM-9B missiles now need the AIM-9B modification instead of the AIM-9D modification, so once again, getting rid of little bugs. Also, the HSDV was increased to 9.3, and it was given the rangefinder upgrade and modifications. They also reduced its reload rate to 1.5 seconds, but kept the first stage ammo stowage to 6, so you can only fire 7 rounds until you have to reload. Doesn't make too much of a difference overall. Just means if you cock up your shot, firstly you have 3.5 seconds less to rectify the situation, or 3.5 seconds more. I don't know. That's a weird one, but yeah. So it's still going to be a very fun vehicle, and you can now run it with the M1 Abrams, since they're moving down the M1 Abrams to 9.7 as well. Oh, wonderful. The Type 93 BR is also going out to 9.7. Not sure about this one, and we'll go into it probably in a different video. The fact is, with some of the more dev center changes, seems like they've made the missile a lot less useful, so putting up its BR, we're going to have to see. Especially since it's completely useless against ground stuff, I'm not sure I agree with it. They've added a more visual GUI for weapon preset customization, only available to developers and alpha testers. You know what, I'm going to try and see if I can get a picture of this, because I've got to say, and the problem is I don't know whether this is a fake picture or not, so please take this with a grain of salt, as I always say to people, because it's hard to tell if this is a fake or not. So understand that I have seen individual pictures like this, which is supposed to represent what this thing is going to look like. But also, at the same time, just, as I said, keep your wits about you, because these could easily be fakes. Because I'll tell you right now, when it comes to these style of things, this is normally the way that people fake them. So it's kind of up in the air. if I'm honest with you. But I kind of like the system. It looks pretty interesting. It doesn't mean that there's any customization. It's just a better visual way of looking at all of the loadouts, so you can kind of understand what the loadouts are going to actually do for you. Anyway, thank you once again to Gentlespie for putting together the stuff. Tomorrow we'll be focusing on some other things, such as the preliminary update notes. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Ambrosius McClellan, B. Young, Blackie, Chris Giltnane, Conte Baraka, Daniel Stanton, Elove Goat, Jay Wilt, Martinez, Trigger Hippie, Eugene's Terry, and also Samuel Slick for supporting the channel.